Good evening, everybody. This is Morbid. You're listening to the Pulpit of Doom Livestream, the official podcast for DreaminDemon.com. And with me tonight is Old Man Metal.
Hey, how y'all doing?
And that's it. So you get to deal with us too. Jaded bailed about, 30 minutes ago for reasons unknown. And so this is a perfect night.
You've got some audio playing behind you.
I don't have anything.
I can hear a news story playing.
I don't have anything open.
Okay, it must be on my end then. Never mind.
It's all good. We don't... I was going to say, this is a perfect night if anybody wants to join in onto the show. This would be great, so we don't have like 5 people on at the same time. If you want to do so, just join the Discord channel, and you will see a channel there called Green Room. If you just join up to that, we'll pull you in to the voice channel. But just remember, if you are in the Green Room, we will eventually pull you in. So don't be in there if you don't want to be on the air. So to start off, we got a couple big news items. One is the YouTube channel, I have just found out, has been completely demonetized finally. It took them a bit to do it, but they did. Finally, and I don't quite, I know one reason why, but I don't know if it's 100% the reason why. And one reason is because back in the day, before you could make money on YouTube, we used to use it to store news videos for articles and whatnot, because back in the day it was real tough to embed videos off of news sites, and now that's not the case. We don't have to download it and store it somewhere else just to post it somewhere else. So for years, our channel was used basically just for that. And as you can imagine, we got a lot of copyright strikes, but for the most part, all they did was took the money for it out of it, which I didn't care. We weren't making anything on it anyway. But I don't know if it's because we started doing the podcast more regularly and the views to the channel have ticked up. I don't know if the tops of our head hit their radar at some point, or even somebody may have even reported us. I'm not real sure, but for whatever reason, somebody at YouTube took a look at our channel and demonetized it because of duplications, what they called it. No copyright strikes, just duplication. So it can either be all those news videos that have been up since 2008, 2007, I mean, for a long, long time, or it could also be either or, the commercials that are playing, that you're seeing right now on the boob tube, on our live stream as filler. Even though I chopped the shit out of them and distorted it as much as possible, just to have something there while we were talking, and didn't have anything to post up there, story related. I don't know if it's either or. So probably what I'm going to end up doing is taking the drastic step to just privatize all the videos on the site, and we'll have to start from scratch. Which I don't really have an issue with it. We make no money off the YouTube channel. We do it mostly for you guys, and obviously it's a lot easier for us to podcast on it. Ugh, damn, orangeade. You ever drink that?
Yeah. It'll get you, man.
Yeah, I love it, but man, it'll get my heartburn kicking. We had Chinese food today, and I think a mixture of that and gunpowder from shooting, and now orangeade is coming back to haunt me. So that's
orangeade and Chinese food. You're playing with fire with that combination.
Yeah, I think I was. Oh, and speaking of playing with fire, once again, this is definitely an impromptu type podcast. I think next Saturday a lot of things will be different in regards to how we do the show and the way it looks. I'm going to have to modify a bunch of stuff, so I might as well change some things up. There's been a couple things here or there that have aggravated me, so I can go ahead and take that time to fix it. And on top of that, my kid's not here, so that means that Chico the dog is right beside me. And so if he sees a headlight outside, he's going to go bonkers. So if that happens, I will try to mute it so I don't blow out anybody's eardrums. And so anyway, on top of that, we've made a lot of headway with switching over the site. Now, we're losing tons of traffic, which we expected because for a couple different reasons. One is we're no longer posting stories on our normal front page, and I haven't switched over any redirects or links to go to our new front page quite yet. So we're kind of in a weird limbo state, and that's fine. I'll eat the cost for a little bit until we can get it back on track again. However, that being said, I think things are going pretty good, don't you? I mean, forum traffic's up. The content's been very varied, finally, to where even I actually can go to the front page and find some things that isn't always about baby rape or child abuse. If somebody wants to see something else, they are able to. In here, let me, just in case, let me switch over to that screen here real quick.
Yeah, I think it looks really good. And the fact of the matter is, it's more content because you're able to promote stuff out of the forums. I think it's great changes, and I think that's you definitely some more varied content, music, books, movies, stuff like that, in addition to the usual real life horror that we all know and love.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I actually like it. It's more like a site to where that I would visit if I was just killing some time or whatever and just wanted to scroll through and see what some like-minded individuals may be interested in. And the members seem to be jumping on board. I know posting activity. Admittedly, I left the forums. I do it on occasion and have done it multiple times. So I've been away from the forums for a bit. But since we decided to make this change, I had to dive back in, and I've done a lot of updating. I've spent some money to get some stuff in there to get it working the way we want it to work, and I got a little bit more to go, but I think by the end of it, it's going to be worth it. But yeah, as you can see on the front page, it's not that much different than what you were used to begin with. You still have we now have a featured thing up top, which I can take them or leave them. It's more an aesthetic thing more than anything. But it usually, if we put something up here in the future, there's a reason for it. It's probably a big story. Right now, we're just using it to test it, and that's what a lot of these posts are. Even though we will be talking about some of these stories. But yeah, as you can see, we have a mix of things from the book side of our forums, the music side of the forums. I know a lot of people may not realize that Old Man Metal likes metal. So
yeah, who'd have thunk it?
I know, right? It's crazy. But so he has a good chunk of metal reviews and stuff that he's interested in. And so it gives him an option to, and myself as well, especially since everybody knows I like horror movies and stuff. And we used to do a lot of reviews for books and movies and crap. And it just got very time consuming trying to provide all the content on the site. But this way, the forum members themselves can actually get some limelight on the front page as well. And I will be figuring out some way to reward some of these members in some fashion if they consistently keep getting stories up on the front page. Now, I will say, though, and I think we mentioned this on the last podcast, and there will be occasions where there'll be duplicates, because I know some people are more Johnny on the spot with articles than others. But if you post up something and it's just a quote and a link to another story, and myself, Jaded, or Metal write up a full-fledged article, then obviously that one will take precedence. So that's just the way it is. I don't think anybody would take any offense to that at all.
I wouldn't think so.
I mean, I wouldn't.
If you want your stuff to take precedent, write it up.
Yeah, so the only thing we don't have right now without using Google Analytics, which isn't exactly the way we want to do it currently, is our top 10 stories, which is normally what this weekly live stream's about. Normally we just jump into the top 10 stories of the week. Currently, I don't have a real good way to do it the way I did on the front page with a WordPress plugin. Hold on, I'm sorry. Orangeade. Oh, Jesus Christ, man! I should have took a Tums. So what we're going to probably do, maybe not the top 10 stories of the week as much as, or at least currently until we figure out a way around it. We'll just go back to the week before and just kind of go over some of the articles that we chose to put on the front page, because for every one article that's on the front page, there's at least 8 or 10 that are in the forums that didn't get on there. So we've got more than enough stuff to talk about.
There's always plenty of bad news.
Oh yeah, it never ends. So, but like I said, I think that's about all I want to say right now in regards to the site changes. But we got one big one coming up, and that involves our Patreon account and what we're going to do with that. And I think what we're going to end up doing is making a special podcast for our Patreons or Bold members only. And we don't quite got that one nailed down yet because we can't quite do news because the news is time sensitive. So I don't want to. I don't know exactly how we're going to do that, but I think it's going to be more along the lines of entertainment stuff, and we'll bring some foreign members in for. And I'm trying to talk Jack Burton into coming in to do some of the movie stuff. I think he would be fun. He has a very what do you call it? Strong opinions on certain movies, so I thought it would be fun to get him on and do some polite arguing over certain movies. But and then I know at least with you and me, even though we both like metal, we like two completely different genres of metal. I mean, I don't think they could be any different in regards to the difference in metal.
They're pretty different.
Yeah, oh yeah. So I thought it would be interesting to actually do some back and forth with that. Not arguing over taste, but like you listen to something of mine, I listen to something of yours, and we kind of just discuss what we liked or didn't like about it. So, something. There's got to be something we can do.
There's bound to be something.
And I know Jaded herself, she's always wanting to talk about the book stuff. And speaking of, we do have I do have a giveaway going on right here at the moment. It is book related. The Humble Book Bundle is giving away a Tales of Horror. God, if Jada was here, she would just kill me on how I just pronounced horror. Horror. Tales of Horror. They're giving away $392 worth of digital horror books for $18. I got the full list on the site. In fact, shit, I guess I can post a link to it. And you know what else? That's another thing that gets me demonetized is my mouth. They do not like all the cursing.
I'll get that link.
I'll just do it in Discord for anybody who may come in later. I didn't put it in YouTube.
You want me to put it in YouTube? I'll get it.
Yeah. Go ahead, just in case.
Got it.
But anyway, it's cheap, man. If you want it, just go ahead and go get it. It's only $18. But all I'm doing is had some forum members post some what their favorite book is. And this isn't an official, even though I own the site. It's not really an official thing. It's more me as a forum member. But we're just going to randomly pick a number and assign it to a post. And whoever made that post is who's going to win it. I've already purchased it for myself, but I figured I'd spread the love and give it to somebody else. So it's only $18, but hey, why spend it if you don't have to? So we'll figure that out on the next podcast. I think I said I was going to do it on Friday, but I think it'd be easier just to do it during the podcast.
Makes sense.
Yeah, next week's podcast, correct. But yeah, a lot of Stephen King fans. A lot of Stephen King fans. I think it and The Stand were probably the most popular picks for the favorite horror books.
That's not too surprising, I don't guess. I mean, he's so ubiquitous. Everyone's read a lot of his stuff, and he genuinely is a really good writer. I've always thought that, even neglecting his skill as a horror writer, but just as a writer in particular, he tells very compelling stories. A lot of verisimilitude. It's just, it feels real as you're reading it.
I'm going to add used to be, because I have not liked much of anything he's put out lately. And I think it was the beginning of the end was his Coke days when he did Tommyknockers. But I think that that accident is when
bent his head, man.
Something was up with that.
I hate to say it, but
anyway, we won't get into that quite yet. If we got some time to kill,
we'll save that for the premium podcast.
Yeah. What are we doing?
We're giving it away for free. What the hell?
Yeah, no shit.
We're at a bachelor party. That's no good.
I had a pretty good day shooting today, though. I know we talked about that last night, but I did good. The only thing that I was really not that good at today was my revolver. I don't know what the deal is with it. I mean, I group perfectly fine. It's just upper left on that revolver, and I don't know what I'm doing with it. I'm controlling everything, but I consistently hit in the same area, upper left, to the point to where I can aim lower right and group right into the center. So I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't do it with any other gun, but I do it with that revolver.
Consistently with that revolver, or just today?
Well, I haven't shot it a lot, so I would just have to say just today.
Right.
But it's aggravating, especially if you shoot. If anybody out there listening shoots, you know what I'm talking about, how aggravating that is when you're consistently doing something wrong. Well, hell, you would know. You shoot.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what would push it.
Somebody said
left.
it was recoil anticipation. The revolver does not have any way to where my hand can brace up. I can't choke up on anything. It's just a curved down handle. So
Right.
it's more kind of a free floating. It's only a 38, so there's like practically no recoil to it that I can tell. But
No, shouldn't be.
somebody's just saying that somebody at the range was saying it looks like it was just it's obviously the way I'm either holding it or anticipating something or what, I don't know. But anyway,
Right.
practice makes perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our new front page, and we're just going to kind of go through some of the articles that me and Metal wrote up. I don't even know if Jaded put anything in this week.
Not that I saw.
Oh, we got somebody in the green room too. So,
Oh, sweet.
yeah, we'll bring him in. It'll be a perfect test. So, I'm
Victor.
telling you now, Edwina Geen, if you want to come on the show, you're about to come on the show. But if you don't want to come on the show, I would get out of the green room.
And you've got to unmute that mic down on the little control thing.
I think I'm going to do that when I move her up, but we'll see.
Okay, cool.
We'll see. I haven't done this yet, so we're going to find out.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, she's with us now, but her mic is muted.
And it might not be the mic, it might be the Discord is muted.
It's not. Yeah, it's definitely her. Because, like, I can right-click on you right now and mute you if I wanted to. And I can right-click her and mute her if I wanted to. So she's definitely, I think, muted on her end. Well, Edwina, we're going to leave you in there. See if you can figure out. If you go into your controls in Discord, I think you can figure it out how to unmute yourself. I think. Let me see here. This is a... oh, here we go. There she is, I think. Edwina, are you there? Well, she's unmuted.
And she's showing up on the live stream thing, so that's cool.
Yeah, I think I heard her. Sort of.
Yeah, I think I have to push E.
Oh, yeah,
There you go.
yeah, there's an option somewhere in there. In fact, it may be a role I've given you. So hold on one second here. Let me see if that changes anything. All right, you may be able to talk now without having to press E. Yeah, there's settings in Discord. There's like roles I assign people, and I don't have all that shit figured out yet because she's the very first person to actually come into the channel. So it's actually a good test for me to see how that
Okay,
works.
I switched my microphone over to auto.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. You are our very first call in to the new podcast. So congratulations. I'll send you a prize. I meant
I'm
metal.
sure I don't deserve it.
Michael send it.
Yeah, I got that covered. It'll be special.
Oh no.
Well, were you coming in for any particular reason, or are you just planning on hanging out with us while we talk about these? Because either way is fine.
I have a few hours to kill before I do a guest appearance on one of my friends' podcasts, and I thought it might be good to warm up my voice. Also, nobody else was volunteering.
Perfect. Sounds
Sound
good.
like good reasons to me.
Then you are now our official co-host.
Nice, thank
Yeah,
you.
all right. Well, like I said, I don't know if you heard, but we don't have a organized list like we usually have, so we're just going to go through some of the articles that myself and Metal picked out. for the week. And these are on the front page. Now, again, for anybody listening, by all means, these are not the stories that are on the site. These are just the ones that me and Metal liked and wrote up. So if you want a plethora of bad news, go into the forums, because it's never ending. It's in there all day long, every day. Somebody's posting something horrible.
It's a cavalcade of shit.
That is correct. Metal, I'm going to let you pick the first one. I think you looked at this a little bit harder than I have, and I'm lost now on which one we were going to start with. Oh, was it the siblings mitigated rent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Green brothers in Chicago, they I guess got tired of paying rent, and why would you want to pay rent? Just wasting money making a landlord rich. And they figured they wouldn't have to pay rent if they killed the landlord. So that's what they did. They tricked him into coming over to the house by telling him they had a leak in the roof, or the apartment rather. And when they got him into the back room, Tony Green distracted him, and Elijah Green grabbed him and strangled him. Then they took the body out the back door, threw it in the landlord's car, and drove around trying to figure out a good place to hide it. And the best they could come up with was to dump it in the sewer in front of their apartment building. So not too far from home there. And like all criminal masterminds before him, they took his credit cards and went spending with them in the neighborhood. And so as soon as he popped up missing and cops looked and saw that his credit cards were being used, they knew sort of where to look. And they started nosing around, and apparently they found someone that saw Elijah taking the body out the back door that night of the murder. And so they then knew who to look at. And when they looked at Tony, they checked both their cell phones. Obviously, if they're looking at you, they're gonna get a warrant and check your cell phone, see what you've been calling, where you've been going, what you've been talking about. It turns out Tony had been Googling information on how long it would take a body to decompose in a sewer. So the cops sort of started looking at sewers around the place, and they found the body on Friday, September 28th. Saturday, they got Elijah at the apartment, went back and caught Tony there Sunday. I think they should have gone back Monday for the trifecta, but they didn't. I guess they figured they had the two they were looking for, but they probably could have got someone else if they'd gone back, I think. And both the Greens are singing like canaries, have admitted to what they did, allegedly, and they're being held without bail. So the only question is the apartment available yet?
Yeah. Well, nobody says they're smart, right?
Nope.
Well,
I wonder if they listened to the dead Kennedys. They advocated a lot of landlord killing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Could be.
You're absolutely right. And you know what? I guess I haven't understood, especially now in 2000, going into 2019, the whole searching for shit on Google. I've never understood how anybody had not got that figured out quite yet, to not do that before you commit a crime. I mean, that's been going on for what? Since the 2000s, 2001?
Yeah, I mean, you just aren't paying attention if you don't know that.
I think it's an ignorance as to how computers work.
I think it's ignorance in general.
Well, it's not that ignorant. They are trying to look for it.
And that is true. They were trying to educate themselves. And he learned something.
He did.
Yeah, of course.
Hell,
don't go spending money in the hood where people know you.
I said it before and I said it again, man. If anything ever happens to me, or I get accused of something, the minute they start searching my Google search shit, I am in a lot of trouble. If that's what they're going to base everything on, because I've got some horrendous crap in my search history. I try to clear it all the time, but I don't really care.
They would probably just enter the whole site as evidence. I mean, whatever you were accused of, it had to be on here at least one other time.
I know we were in a courtroom once. It was a story that we did about an altercation in a parking lot between an older woman and a younger millennial type that ended in, I think, something physical. But they actually went to court, and our site was entered in, I guess because of comments that were made by either some of the parties involved. So I always thought that was awesome.
Oh,
That
wow.
somewhere, I have to look that up. I'm sure somebody in the forums remembers it, but somewhere in a courtroom somewhere, our site is documented.
And that'll be there forever. Didn't someone on the site send a pizza to what was the little girl's mother?
Kaylee.
Yeah,
Casey, Anthony.
am I hallucinating that, or I swear at some point someone on the site actually, when the media was camped out front, sent a pizza to the house.
Yeah, it was
talked about it on the site, and it created a big stir because the media's like, "What the fuck are they doing ordering pizza?"
Yes, yeah, it was a big point of contention between me and at the time that was my the co-owner of the site. Her and some of the forum members got together and ordered a pizza and sent it to the house, and it showed up on the news. And on the inside of it, it said something like "with love and decomp." The Dreamin Demon, and it was supposed to be a funny jab at the explanation for the rotting smell in the trunk. Of course, was supposedly an old pizza that was in the trunk. Yeah. And I was on the road coming back from another town when they called, and were very, very happy and proud of themselves for doing it. But I was a little bit pissed off about it because mainly the joke, as it were, wasn't clever and it wasn't funny. So and of course, anybody who knows me, I am no bleeding heart whatsoever, right? But you were talking about a little dead girl in the trunk of a car, and that's what you were making the jab about, her rotting body in the trunk, right? So I just figured there could have been something much better you could have done. I didn't like that our site was attached to digging even further into, you know, the grandparents of the girl. So it formed a little bit of a rift over that stupid ass pizza. But yes, it did end up on the news.
It's a little bit of a waste of money.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, like I said, a lot of people didn't understand why I was a little bit pissed off about it, but I mean, if you actually take that joke, right, and I don't want to spend more time on this than I'm about to, because I'm about to. Take that joke, right, little girl, rotting smell in the trunk. The explanation was it was a old pizza, right, and everybody knows old pizza doesn't smell like anything. It's like an old McDonald's French fry. It just completely just becomes an inanimate object. And
turns into furniture.
Pretty much, just something taking up space in the trunk. So I get what they were going for, but if you take that joke with love and decomp, the Dreamin Demon, right? What the fuck does that even mean? What does it mean? It means nothing. It's not even funny. It doesn't even make sense to me. So they could have at least done something a little bit more, I don't know, clever with the pizza. Hell, you could have just said, you know, enjoy the pizza from Dreamin Demon. It would have been just as funny.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah, that damn pizza, man. And there was a member involved with all that who's no longer on the site. And I mentioned her a bunch. People see me. Her name was Peeper Ann. I can't even remember what all she did, but she was like a tornado through the forums.
Like a hurricane.
She has an enduring legacy because I think I've only been on the website for maybe 4 years and only really active for 2, but I've heard of her.
Yeah, and I get made fun of all the time by Jaded because I don't remember these people and the things that they've done, and sometimes I'll unban members because I can't remember what they did, and she'll be like, "That's the person that XYZ'd," and I'm like, "Ah, fuck, damn, I forgot all about that." Yeah, but I just remember she was a very big presence because the site didn't used to be all crime based; it used to be more horror, anything based, and so we had a bunch of, it was mainly men, it was mostly young males that populated the forums for the most part. We had females, but it was mainly 80% male. And
that seems like the right demographic.
Well, it was at first until we went to when we kind of morphed over into complete total crime. And for whatever reason, to the shock of me and everybody involved, we had no clue that women love crime stories. And I think my theory at the time, and still kind of stands today, I think it's the soap opera aspect of it. You know, I don't, not that they enjoy, you know, hearing about people getting killed. In fact, it's the exact opposite. They are actually very affected by some of the stories. But I think it's some of the inter-drama that goes on, not only with trial stuff, but with family stuff that goes on with these people that are, you know, brought up into the media for some horrendous reason. and I just figured it was kind of like a soap opera replacement. I think there were some statistics on the ID channel, Discovery Channel, and the crime shows. I think that the viewership is mostly female.
To the point that it's being joked about now, and there's the term murder porn, which
Correct.
is slang for the Discovery, ID network, etc. Well, not Discovery, but ID network, Dateline, 2020, etc.
Oh yeah.
But I can understand the theatrics aspect of it. That's not what I'm interested in. Any kind of true crime for me, more of the reasoning. I don't understand the psychology behind a lot of this.
Yeah, well, and in actuality, I think that you fit more along the lines of like myself, or even Metal, especially Jaded.
That's the hook for me. Why? That's the hook for me.
And
I've heard that of a lot of people.
And mine used to be like that back in the day, especially when I first started getting into the whole serial killer fascination thing back when I was younger. But now it literally is a little bit more sociopathic on my end. I truly like knowing that I am disgusting somebody online, that I'm finding the worst possible story that I can find, and am going to half-ass ruin their day for just a little bit.
I do the same
that's
thing
turning
at
the
Christmas.
psychology inwards.
I do the same thing at Christmas. I purposely get the ugliest fucking wrapping paper I can, and the gifts I give are just, the wrapping is just absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, so I get some kick out of that. It's almost a form of trolling, I guess, is what it is. I mean, I would assume, but still to this day, I mean, I think it's just because I've been posting these stories for so long. It's very rare that we have anything come across the line nowadays that I am completely just like, what the hell? I'm not really shocked by too much anymore. Nothing really surprises me any longer. I think we've had a couple here and there that have come through where I'm like, whew, wow, that's a doozy. But after so long writing these up, and just reading them, having to read them every day to find the ones you want to write about. I mean, after a while, you just kind of become desensitized. It's like porn for me, totally desensitized. So
it'll happen.
Yeah, you got to get to some real extremes before I'm going to be, interested.
A lot of the Russian cases.
Oh my God, what the hell's up with them? They do
extremely brutal culture, and I think it's obvious for historical reasons why.
Yeah, a lot of good ones come out, and I say good ones in the context of what we're talking about, but a lot of the good ones come out of there, and to the point to where there's a unwritten rule that I won't publish anything, stories from places like Africa or India, because they do some very horrendous, ignorant shit, right? And it's like, it's not that, in other words, if I were to post that a mother boiled her baby alive because a witch doctor said it would get rid of the baby's cleft palate, and it came out of some village in Africa, that's not really going to hit somebody if the story, as much as it would if the story came out of Boise, Idaho.
Well, they've done studies too that the further away you are from anything, the less you tend to care. So yeah, I think foreign stories are harder to grip people.
Yeah, and I think people relate more to people that look like them, and that's why we'll let some of the Russian ones go through. Any very European or Western civilization, I'll post. It used to be U.S. only, but I'll go out of bounds every now and then, depending on how horrible the story is.
Well, the Russian stories usually are pretty good. I mean, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It's pure butchering.
Well, let's see here. The other story that you had up there as well had something to do with Mellencamp's Keyboardist, and I don't recognize this guy, so I don't know if he was a touring keyboardist or he just aged tremendously since the video days.
Yeah, there's no telling, because the kind of life he leads, the kind of life that will age you. He was with Mellencamp for 2 albums. One of them was American Fool, which was 1982, and whatever album was before that, and I don't remember. that part of his discography. But yeah, he was a keyboardist with John Mellencamp, who at the time was John Cougar, and that was his claim to fame until he made the FBI's top 10 wanted fugitive list. He did that 18 years later, which would have been in 2000 rather. And he got on that list, that exalted list that every criminal wants to be on, up there with John Dillinger and all the other badasses of days of yore, for production and distribution of child pornography. And at the time when they put him on the top 10, he was in Thailand. He was over there hiding out in Thailand, the Shangri-La of Too Young Love. And they arrested him there in August 2001 and extradited his ass back to the U.S. So he drew a federal bid and got released finally in January of 2017, and lasted exactly 6 months before he cut and ran. When they caught him, he said he did it to avoid going back to prison. So I guess he knew what was going to happen and just decided to take off. They caught him on a bus. He was on a bus from one town in Montana to another, and he had $10,000 in cash strapped to each leg, $50,000 in his luggage, $1,000 worth of weed, whatever the fuck that is, in reserve for personal use. And he had about a felony's worth of kiddie porn too. And he would have gotten away with it if it hadn't been for his own stupid self. He was watching child pornography on the bus on an unspecified device while he was on the run. And a fellow traveler came up and said something about it. And he told the guy to leave him alone. He said, leave me alone. I know I have a problem, and was just completely dismissive. So, of course, the other individual on the bus called the police, and they met the bus at the next stop and yanked his ass off, and he admitted to everything. So he ended up with making a plea deal, and he got 10 years minimum, and warned him that he may be on supervised relief for the rest of his life following the prison term, which he probably will be. But anyhow, just another in a long line of people on the demon that are their own worst enemy and just cannot stop themselves from doing the destructive shit that they're doing, no matter what. I mean, this guy couldn't keep from looking at kiddie porn long enough to get from one end of fucking Montana to the other. And so anyhow, back in jail. And John Cougar, I'm sure he's proud. They'll probably do the Ozzy Osbourne thing, re-record the album, scrub him from history and make him vanish, and there'll go his residuals if he has any. Of course, he probably doesn't have any writing credits, but if he did. So,
what struck me about that story, because I think I commented on it, and it was a tangential comment. It was about Pete Townsend.
Those are the best ones, though.
Came up under similar circumstances, but this is a paraphrase. I don't have the article up in front of me. But he was quoted as saying to a friend while it was happening that he knew he had a problem, just leave him alone.
Wow.
And it's a mental illness. I believe pedophilia is a mental illness. I don't think it's one that can be treated.
At this point in time,
recidivism rates are not very good.
No.
Or very bad, depending on how you want to look at it. But
I think that statement was pretty perfect as an example. I know I have a problem, leave me alone.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's treatable at all. And what I mean, it's 2018, and there's been absolutely no treatment or cure for pedophilia that I know of. I don't even know if the whole castration thing is 100%. The chemical.
This is a nasty fact, but a lot of sex offenders who are chemically castrated just turn to using objects.
Oh, wow. Well, that doesn't help.
Well, we see it in Bundy, who wasn't castrated, but he was fond of jamming objects into people.
Yeah, well, I don't know what you do about it. I always come out and getting flack for this, but it's like some of the unsung heroes to me, and this is going to come out wrong, and if it's clipped in context, it's going to sound horrible. But can you imagine? I don't even think it's fathomable how many pedophiles there are out there that you work with, that serve your food, who are in traffic with you every day. I'm sure the number's quite high, who do nothing, who never act on their urges to the day they die. And That's when people say the kill all pedophiles or whatnot, and I can't quite get on board with that. I still stick with just get rid of the ones that actually offend. Just get rid of them.
Well, it's like a lot of mental illnesses. It's an invisible illness. You will never know until something happens.
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. But again, I hate the carte blanche type solution that some people have, because even to the point you just made, if that's the solution is just to get rid of anybody, any pedophile, then you would have to get rid of anybody that could potentially snap. Suffering from some type of mental illness into where they may hurt or kill somebody, even if it's not sexual in nature. And I don't think that's quite productive. Although waiting until they offend to do anything about it, too, is almost like shutting the barn door after the horse gets out. But I don't really know which way is better at this point.
Well, for people to be able to treat themselves before it escalated and anything happened, there would have to be not a removal, but a lessening of the stigma around it and an encouraging of them to come forth to therapists. But I don't see that happening. It's a personal offense. People will always be outraged by it, and rightfully so, because it's wrong.
The only thing I've seen lately in regards to pedophilia is the fact that the online culture, there's a small faction of it that it's almost pedophile acceptance, apologists. That they're almost trying to make pedophilia again. We always knew that there were groups like NAMBLA and stuff out there, but now there's an online culture that's actually trying to make it more acceptable.
Yeah, I'm on social media a fair amount. And
so you've seen what I'm talking about. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah, they have what they call MAPS is the polite term now. It's minor attracted people. And then there's no MAPS, which is non-offending minor attracted people. On Twitter, they're using the clown face emoji to indicate themselves. That is not a hoax thing. I've looked into it. I try to make sure that I don't hold on too close to those. But it's just ridiculous that they have their own terms and their own little subculture now. And it's not very well thought.
No, it's not. Hold on one second. We got somebody that's in the green room. They wanted to come on here real quick. I'm going to try to drag you in, Muriel, and see if we can
pack this thing like a clown car.
Yeah, we're going to see if I can get this to work.
Hi, Muriel.
Let's see here. Muriel, make sure that you're not... shit, I just dragged my own self out of there. Muriel, make sure that your mic's not muted. In the Discord settings, just like what Edwina had found out, there's a setting to where by default you have to press a key to talk. You can actually disable that and have it voice activated. And unfortunately, I guess I should find out for next time. I don't know exactly where that's at.
If you hit the cog at the bottom next to the headphones and the microphone and your name, that'll take you into the settings, and it should be under voice or something like that.
We'll leave you in here and until you get that figured out. Otherwise, you can press a key to talk. I don't know which one that is either. You said it was E? I don't know. We'll find out.
E for elucidate.
All right, we'll leave her. We'll leave her in there for now. Muriel, when you come on, just start talking. I'll keep an eye on it. But currently, you are unmuted from our end, so it's definitely on your end. And you're about to hear my dog go bonkers. Well, maybe not. He doesn't know yet.
Sort of like that dog in the next door. There we go.
That wasn't too bad. All right, sorry about that. Anyway, we'll move on. Speaking of John Cougar, do you remember that video, Little Pink Houses?
I remember the song. I don't know if I remember the video or not.
There was a girl in the video when they're singing in front of a gas station. She's wearing a cheerleading outfit. I'll go into that at another date then, when we get someone here that remembers her. It has to do with her specifically, and how I ended up tracking her down on Facebook like a fucking stalker.
Oh wow.
With help. I actually had somebody actually help me with that. I didn't ask for it. They just seen me inquiring on her whereabouts, and
they decided they'd hook you up with the information.
yeah. Well, it was crazy because I had the biggest crush on her when I was a kid, right? And then it's like, as you get older, and and the internet gives you the ability to search for things about that you didn't know about, or things you may have thought about that you didn't have access to back in the day. Actors, actresses, whatever. And I was always curious what the hell she ever ended up doing. This fucking cheerleader in a music video. And I was surprised to find out that she was a very famous backup singer for some very big groups, and had sung with John Cougar on a couple of his albums. And then she just kind of disappeared. And so I thought maybe, in my head, for somebody that had such a prolific career up until a certain point, that she must have died. That's just what I assumed. And so I had put some feelers out on Facebook about that cheerleader chick. But nope, sure enough, it was about half a year later. Forgot all about it. But somebody actually contacted me, and she's still singing and stuff. She has her own Facebook page and crap. But anyway,
Okay.
I don't know.
That's cool. I thought you were going to say she was doing phone sex or something like that.
No. I just you don't hear the words John Cougar Mellencamp that often, and so when I do, it always reminds me of that damn cheerleader chick. So if anybody else out there remembers that cheerleader chick, she's still around, and she's in her own like little band of some type.
That reminds me, on Twitter, it might have been last year or the year before, there was a huge push to track down this goth kid that was on an episode of Maury, I think, where they did the makeovers, like, makeover my freaky teen.
Right.
And it's hilarious because it's a lot of people like thirsting over what is essentially a teenage boy who he was really humiliated on a talk show. And they found him, and they were like, oh, honey, that ruined him because he's still painfully normal. It broke him.
Yeah, he lost his will to be different.
He was really cute. And I know what it was. It was the 90s, coming off of Satanic Panic, the whole afraid of goth kids, and, Columbine happened too, but it was just really sad.
I absolutely loved the Satanic Panic. I loved it, and I know I may have talked about this before, but back in the day, I was real into a church youth group, and the whole reason why, of all people, I was there, even though I didn't even believe in it, was that a church nearby was trying to refill their coffers by getting some new generation of people. They were getting too old. They needed young people in the church to keep it going. And so they had put out this big drive to get more youth, so they spent some money on a youth pastor. They had a budget for the youth group activities, because, they have to sweeten you up with retreats to the mountains and the beach and all that kind of crap.
Never trust a cool pastor, by the way.
No. I can tell you that firsthand. But anyway, one of the neighbor kids had invited us, and my mom at the time thought that the heathens that me and my brother were, it would be good for us. So we went. And we ended up meeting some of the coolest fucking people at that thing. Lifelong friends at that place, a couple girlfriends there. It's amazing how horny everybody is, especially when parents leave them unattended because they're at church. And what's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst that can happen is somebody like me is in the ranks. And it was just, I had an absolute blast. But that being said, I did have to put up with some stupidity. And one of them was during the Satanic Panic, where our youth pastor took us to at the time it was a Kmart of all things. And I don't know if a lot of people are old enough to remember that Kmart used to be a big reseller of music. They had aisles of music in Kmart's. And he actually took us in there with a camera, and he was picking out albums and taking pictures of it, showing how satanic they were. And I'll never forget, one of the main albums that he picked up was fucking Rush, Moving Pictures. And
Yeah.
and I don't know if anybody remembers it, but it literally is people moving pictures into a building. And
Is it satanic because it's Canadian?
well, that is true. But he didn't go on that angle. He went on the angle that, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm pretty sure I'm not, one of the pictures has dogs on it, and that was him saying that the group was advocating bestiality.
It's funny you mentioned moving pictures because in I guess elementary school where I went to elementary school, went through sixth grade. That was the oldest grade in elementary school, and we had to take music class. And we had a younger music teacher that apparently was religious, and we had to do, one of the things we had to do was a report. We had to pick a band and do a report, but we couldn't just pick any band that we wanted because of her religious beliefs. We had to pick from a list of bands that she had approved. And I remember I wanted to do Rush because of the album Moving Pictures, and she wouldn't let me do it. I had to do ABBA, which was fun because I didn't know anything about them, even as young as I was. Just even then, I didn't listen to that light of music. But and her thing was, I asked why. Well, what makes you think it's satanic? And she told me, if you look at the album cover, there's a little girl stepping back from a picture of herself screaming or something like that. I don't have it in front of me. And she said something about witchcraft. That was the best she could do as to why Rush was satanic. But I've actually heard that too, specifically about moving pictures because of the cover art.
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, we had an absolute blast, watching these adults, and then they would have these. They would take us back and have these big powwows where they all discussed all this stuff, and we just had a blast feeding into it. We didn't challenge it because there was no fun in challenging it. It was funner to feed into it and make them even more, believe this bullshit that they had already formed in their heads on what the stuff was. And I was already a fan of Rush at the time. I already knew it was on the album, and they were singing about shit like airplane codes, and it was just a Rush album. There nothing, was nothing. It's as far as evil as you can get is a Rush album.
Well, that's what I thought was fun about the Satanic Panic you're talking about, is if you look at the bands whose albums they were burning, they were not the bands that they should have been burning their albums. They're burning Iron Maiden albums. It's like, well, they're not any more satanic than, anybody. If you're going to be burning albums, it should be these guys over here that you've never heard of.
Right.
It was like any kind of rock music that they were unaware of and afraid of. I was watching Paradise Lost, which is, of course, like the big West Memphis 3 documentary.
Which I hate, by the way.
It's fun to see the overreactions.
That part was actually the most fascinating part to me. Was the Satanic Panic angle that they went down.
Yeah. But so Damien Eccles is talking, and he's listening. He's like listing the bands that he listens to. It's like Metallica, Megadeth, U2.
Oh wow! Hey Alf, sorry man, I just brought you on, but it sounds like you're in an airplane.
A lot of background noise.
Metallica, Megadeth.
Oh,
Alf, it might be a good idea if you're listening to the podcast to mute it.
Yeah, you need to mute your. I'll unmute you here in a second, Alf. But you're listening to the podcast, so it's coming back through to us.
And it'll drive you nuts because it's on like a 6-second delay or so.
Yeah, correct. I'll bring you back on here in 1 second.
I had that problem initially, but I'm wearing headphones.
It's like Dave Mustaine says, you got to buy the albums to burn my albums you want.
Wow.
What's up?
Oh, nothing. Everything just went dead quiet, and I thought that I had muted the entire server.
I actually did too, but apparently you didn't, so that's cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It just went from like I was hearing some type of air noise, and then it just went dead, cut silence, and I thought, fuck, that's what I get for clicking around.
What now?
I thought it was my connection. I have infamously bad internet sometimes.
No, I'm infamous for clicking around while we're live and doing stupid shit, so I thought I just did it again. Let me see here. We got a Washington, D.C. woman who was mauled to death by her pit bull inside her home. I'm not going to go into the details on this. There were more details released later, where they released the lady's picture and the a little bit more details about what had happened. But it's the same old pit bull story. And he's a big one. He was a big pit bull, but supposedly she was with the dog. It was a family pet. Older woman. I don't remember how old she was.
50.
50. But she was only with the dog alone for like 10 minutes or so. At least that's what was first reported. And the dog turned on her and mauled her to death. And that was about it. Neighbors said that the dog didn't seem aggressive towards people, but was extremely aggressive towards other animals.
Well, it was extremely aggressive towards one people.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's just a whole... I don't know. I'm not going to get on my pit bull rant. The only thing I get sick of when it comes to pit bulls, and I am an absolute dog lover. I mean, I'm unabashedly a dog lover, to the point that I can't even watch animal cruelty stuff to report on if it involves dogs. So it's not like I have any hate towards the pit bull. For the most part, I post pit bull stories because I get shit for posting them. So it just makes me post them more. But the fact remains, they kill more people than any other breed, so they make the news more than any other breed, and that's what I do for a side job, is post horrible stories. And I will post anything in regards to people getting killed by animals because I am absolutely fascinated by the subject. That and amusement park accidents. But animal attacks are one of my favorites, and unfortunately with dogs, pit bulls rule the day at the moment. Because trust me, if any other breed, I will jump on it just for that, to have something different. And I have no idea where I was going. Oh, the pit bull. I don't hate pit bulls, but eventually I wish these people would shut up about it's not the breed, it's how they're raised. That just statistically is not the case.
Well, some dogs are hardwired to do different things. That's how animals are, and some animals are hardwired to go after small, defenseless shit.
Yeah, and I think the difference with the pit bull is just the fact that the tenacity of the attacks. There's a video out right now, and I didn't post it yet. I was going to, but I didn't have time.
They've got a hell of a lot of lock pressure.
Yeah, but it's not that hard to get them to unlock. There was a myth about that their jaws lock or something, and but that's not actually the case. You can get them to let go pretty much like any other canine. I just don't know if you'd want to do that, because I don't know if you'd want to put your hands anywhere near his fucking mouth. But they I was about to say something about the fucking pit bull. Oh, I was going to say it's almost to the point to where it seems like that the breed itself, I don't know if it's just so tainted. I don't know how you possibly even fix the issue. I mean, I don't know what you do at this point. I mean, right now it's just getting to the point to where you got people charging you more insurance or not allowing you to have them at all.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say a lot of places are starting to legislate, you can't have this breed, you can't have that breed.
Well, yeah, there's a video out right now of a pit bull attacking a young kid on his bike, and you only get to see when it all starts, and a younger teen is holding the pit bull when the pit bull attacks a boy on his bike. And I think that the story is that the kids may have been taunting the dog, and that's why the dog went after the kid. And the problem with it wasn't that part. If you're going to taunt the dog and the dog attacks you, that's your fucking fault, right? It's not necessarily the dog's fault. But the problem was what happened after or during the attack. They could not get that dog to stop for shit. Grown adults were holding this dog down, and he would not quit attacking this kid to the point to where that after they finally did get him to let go, he attacked a random stranger.
Just to keep going.
Just would not quit attacking people. And nobody can control this dog. So, and I think that's always been another big issue I always have with pit bulls. I know we've had stories before and even some video of it where that sometimes there'll be smaller females or smaller males with two pit bulls on a leash when they go bonkers. And you are not going to control those dogs. They are going to drag you to wherever the hell they want to go.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you just from personal experience, a pit bull for a given size dog, they are strong as fuck. I mean, if they want to go somewhere, compared to any other breed of dog that I've dealt with, it's the same size. They're some strong little bastards. They're going to go.
Alf, hey, we're going to bring you on real quick. So if you got the stream and you're listening to it, turn it down for me, and we'll let you on right now.
Alrighty.
Oh, all right, there you go.
When I turned off the
Oh wow.
the YouTube audio, it started working.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah, you sound like you're underwater. Are you using like a what type of mic are you using?
It's the one here on my headphone cord.
Oh wow. Hold on. I think everybody's eardrums had to adjust to that.
Whoops. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay, dude. Yeah, it's like you got a real bad audio connection.
Yeah, well, I do have a kind of a basic voice. So.
All right.
That you do,
very
sir.
low voice, though.
Yeah. Excuse me 1 second. I have a cough button on this thing.
I got you. Is there any way that you can lower down your volume?
Yeah.
Okay, that made a giant.
Working on it.
You're not getting the background noise anymore.
Yeah, I'm not hearing the background noise anymore, so that's
Okay.
good.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, the one thing I don't have with Discord is I can't just turn your volume down. Well, you know what? I say that. Yeah, I can. Hold on. Let me see if this works. Okay, that might put you back to where you're at the same volume as everybody else.
All right.
Well, how's it going, Alf?
Pretty well. For the most part, I'm inked now from wrist to the shoulder. I've been playing with fountain pens again. One of them decided it was going to spray me.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah, I think you've been on before. I think you may be the only repeat person we've had. You were on back in the day when we used to be on Spreaker.
Spreaker.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I still pay for that. I'm real bad about forgetting to cancel subscriptions, and I think that's one of them that I've paid for a year that I have not used. So they've gotten some good money out of me. But anyway, were you just calling in for the hell of it?
Yeah, see if I can get this Discord thing to work.
I got you. All right. Well, you got anything about you want to say about any of the stories that we've already talked about? Pit bulls. We got a good one coming up next.
Yeah, that's a real good one next.
What is it?
It's the one out of is that Mississippi? I need better.
Shaw,
okay.
Mississippi.
Thank you. Well, it might help if I just click it. I think I need much better glasses. Now, there has been a lot more details that came out since I posted this, because there wasn't any almost at all when I first did this. But this was the baby. You know what? Let's scroll down here and see if somebody posted an update. I know they did. There's the baby. She was found in an oven. She had been stabbed and placed in an oven. And at the time when I reported it, nobody had identified who had actually done it. But a family member had come home and had called police about the baby. But it turned out to be the baby's grandmother, 48-year-old Carolyn Jones. She's been charged with first-degree murder. The baby's name, her name was Royalty Marie Floyd. I don't know, without scrolling through myself, if there were any details on exactly what transpired, if there was any type of motive, but I don't really know.
I'm looking.
Yeah, I am too, and it's basically just saying the same stuff, just with names now. But it was a 20-month-old girl, name already stated, and her body's at the autopsy. Because I think the big question was she put in the oven alive? Which wouldn't be the first one, unfortunately, but they didn't say in particular if the baby was already dead before she was placed in the oven.
Lord, I hope so.
Yeah. And you know what else they don't say? If the oven was on.
Oh.
You know what I mean? It could be I'm not going to say a non-story because a baby died, but I meant, oh no, there it is. I'm sorry. Yeah, she suffered second and third degree burns across 60% of her body. So yeah, it was on.
Yeah.
But still, no word on whether the baby was alive or not. I don't know what the deal is with that. Even from a mental illness standpoint, we've had a lot of mothers, mostly women, who put their babies in microwaves and ovens, and I've never quite understood what the mentality was behind it.
I have exactly zero idea.
No, I can't say that's something I've read into.
Yeah, I was hoping maybe you had looked into that before, but yeah,
No, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bit of knowledge, I guess, that the average person would have in their head somewhere. But it is weird, wouldn't you say? I mean, that out of all the things you would do, why the oven?
I Google a lot of morbid things, and it never crosses my mind to put in ovens. So,
well, it's like you get the mental. I mean, very famous cases of women suffering from some form of mental illness, even if it's postpartum or whatnot, or the standard that they think they're saving the children from some type of evil or whatnot. But they usually go with the pain, or what they think is the painless route. And if I'm not mistaken, at least statistically from the stories that I've read and wrote, it's drowning. They always drown, whether it's mostly the bathtub or whatnot, but we do have a bunch of stories where people have stuck their babies in ovens and microwaves and never quite understood what was. I don't know if you're supposed to understand what's going through their head, but even from a mental, like even if I was trying to think crazy, I just can't quite wrap my head around why the microwave or the or why the oven, unless you were trying to inflict as much bodily pain as you possibly could on something.
I'll just throw out there that water is associated with baptism and religion, and putting stuff in ovens is associated with motherhood and housewifery. And I don't know if that's got anything to do with either of them, but throw those two things out there.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, actually.
We'll go with it because I have no other explanation.
It's probably nothing as deep as that, but well, it might not. I don't want to say not as deep as that because there's always something deeper when it comes to mental stuff.
Yeah, on a subconscious level, you know.
Yeah.
We don't consciously think in symbols. At least I don't think most of us do, but. Anyhow, like I said, I'll just throw that out there. I'm not saying that's what it is.
Well, speaking of mothers killing their children, there was also a scare story when I wrote it, and then now all the details have come out regarding the woman out in Tennessee. She murdered her 4 children and then killed herself. And I think that what they, I'm scrolling through because I was reading it last night, actually. Somebody had posted an update to that, but it looks like it's a divorce situation, that these were adopted children, and that the husband had not been around in a long time. That she had raised these kids by herself, alone, on her own for 11 years, and for whatever reason, she snapped the other day and killed them all. I'm pretty sure she shot them, and before she turned the gun on herself.
Well, there was that case not too long ago of the husband losing his job, or maybe it was that he lost his job and that they were about to lose the house. And he was just so concerned with public perception that he, killed his children and then himself. Which is a nice contrast. I mean, versus like, don't take my children away, I'm losing everything. I don't know.
Well, I was reading here, it says, during their divorce proceeding, it says, testimony given during divorce proceeding from her husband, Randall Collier, details how Cynthia, who I guess was the mother, was the 4 adopted children's sole caregiver for 11 years. I've never considered him to be my father, one of the children wrote of their father in a sworn affidavit. Looks like he moved out in 2009 and made only one attempt to see the children in the next 9 years. and I gave Cynthia. Oh, holy shit! He paid that his ex-wife $11,000 a month.
That's
So-
big
That's a
support
good
check.
job that he has.
Yeah, and I saw the house, and when I saw the house in correlation with her raising these kids alone, I figured that he made some money. But yeah, but I guess there's no update in regards to motive. I mean, I couldn't imagine he just tried to cut her off or something. I don't know what he did. I mean, who knows? Yeah, I just scrolled through. I can't find anything. I don't know if you looked too, but I couldn't find anything else.
It might be one of those situations where we won't know if she says anything. Or did she kill herself too?
Yeah, she's dead.
Then no.
Yeah, no, she did the backwards thing again.
You shoot yourself first, and the kids will take care of themselves.
Yeah.
They always get it wrong.
On the subject of mother murder, just real quick, I listen to 911 calls sometimes because that's fun. And I remember a case where a woman tried to poison her 2 autistic children, failed, and then garroted them.
Yeah, was it the one that I think I've heard this 911 call you're talking about? Is it the one where the mother calls it in after she did it?
Yeah, it's when she's on she's calling it in, yeah.
Yeah, we've got one. We have an opener for our podcast we haven't used on this version of our podcast that I think is a snippet out of that 911 call.
Oh, nice.
I know, right? I did like you. I listen to 911 calls. I also spend some of my free time watching plane crash reenactments.
Wait, reenactments?
Yeah, they actually have. There's a site you can go to, and it takes the audio from inside the cockpit, and with all the flight data recording that they have after the fact, they can actually recreate every movement the plane was making while the people were talking in the cockpit. So I find it terrifyingly interesting to hear these pilots. It's one thing to listen to them talking back and forth or talking to the controller about what's happening and what they can't get to work and what the plane's doing. But then to actually see what the plane was doing at the time, it was fascinating. And I found it because I was trying to find a story in regards to a plane crash where they hit a mountain, is what it was, and because they were trying to do instrument only flying, I think is what the problem was. It was pilot error, and I was just trying to watch to see if they had shown how it had happened, and that's when I found the site that has all that data there, and you can actually watch those things. Another interesting thing, just to show you how I earned my nickname, is the OSHA reports for workplace accidents are pretty fascinating as well.
I remember job training in a factory that makes headliners. It's basically the inside roof of the car. And during the training seminar, they repeated to us many times not to put your hands in a certain machine unless you were trained on that machine, because it had mangled a few people.
And that just makes people want to do it.
It made me want to see the machine.
Yeah, there's one of the things I like to do is whenever we can get them, and if there's enough details, and now with the forums, I'll have carte blanche to do it anytime I want now. It usually happens in foreign countries where the safety procedures are lacking, and you can see some really horrific things that happen to people. They don't always die, but some of them probably are wishing they did. But some of the things that these machines can do to people is just unbelievable.
Well, I tell you a true story real quick, and this is a fact. I worked for a place, and this has been a long time ago, but I worked for a place that manufactured bottles. It was a blow molding plant, and when bottles come out of the blow molding machine, there's excess plastic on them that they go through what's called a trimmer, which is basically a thing with a bunch of knives in the shape of the bottle that'll close down on it and cut that excess plastic off, and then it drops in a chute, gets blown back into a grinder, and gets reused. And so when they have these trimmers or these cutters, they have them to where if you open one of the access windows, the whole machine will shut down, and that's to keep you from getting yourself caught in it. And this place that I was working at, they were more interested in efficiency than they were about safety, and they had actually wired around all those safety cutouts. And they were a privately owned company, so they could do pretty much what they wanted, in terms of no one watching over their shoulder. It wasn't like a division of some other company. And for some reason, they had some safety guys come through, and the safety guys immediately started getting on the plant manager about the fact that they had wired around these safety cutouts, which actually, from an OSHA standpoint, is illegal. They could have gotten in trouble for that. And I wasn't there to see this happen, but I heard about it later. The plant manager was in the middle of saying you'd have to be an idiot to get caught in one of these things, and opened one of them to snatch a bottle out to prove to him how safe it is to reach into this machine while it's running, and in mid-sentence got caught by the thing and got mangled. So that was a funny story to hear when I got to work, because I people had got hurt on the things and they didn't care. So
yeah, I've never actually witnessed anything from any of the places I worked. I think the worst I ever saw was as a kid when I used to do cabinet work. There was a guy that was using it was a belt sander. It was the circular one that was perpendicular to the floor, where you would push wood up against it to sand things. And I was doing some layman shit. I was sanding something, and I was kind of facing his back. And I heard the unmistakable sound of him either losing grip of the wood, or the wood that he was sanding had splintered or something. But I heard it, and I just glanced up and looked, and he turned around, and he had his eyes were like wide as hell, and he had about a 7-inch long piece of wood stuck out of his nostril. Damn. Where the
That's
fucking,
not what I expected it.
with his fucking splinter just bullseyed into his nostril. And of course, he turns around, and we're just looking at each other for a second, and he just instinctively does what most people would do when you have something where it's not supposed to be. He pulled it out. And of course,
bleeding like a stuck pig.
He bled. It was a crazy amount of blood that came out of him. But yeah, I think that's the worst accident I've ever seen at work. But we've done so many wood chipper deaths. I swear to God, there were some people doing some tree work across the street. I can see out my front window across the street, and I live in a wooded area on a dead-end road. And there were some people out there throwing some stuff in a wood chipper. And
the last house on the left.
Man, I came so close to setting up my phone just to record it, just in case, because that's the one thing. One of the most horrific deaths that I can imagine is the old wood chipper death that we've reported on, and
Well, wheat thresher, same thing.
yeah, I just something about the fucking wood chipper, especially if you've ever seen what that looks like inside. To get pulled into that, it would just, you would pray to God you went in head first, or at least it just got your arm detached. But I couldn't imagine falling in feet first or something. But there's pictures out there on the internet. If you're ever interested, you can find it. There's pictures of what that looks like when somebody goes completely through one. And what a lot of people don't realize, mainly because of movies, it's not just, they get completely liquefied and shot out the top. Your biggest organ on you is your skin. And your skin actually, at least in the pictures that I saw of somebody that went completely through one, it remains largely intact. It's
you get degloved, but in a bodily sense.
Correct. Right. It was just a giant, big patch of what used to be the skin that covered a human body, and it was just not what I was expecting. When I was clicking on the picture, I thought it was just going to be a big mess of just just bloody gore sitting inside the bin, which it was. But also included with that was this big giant piece of skin that
a nice little pullover skin shroud.
And I'm assuming,
yeah, for the fans of human leather.
Right. Well, I'm assuming because the skin is so malleable that it actually can half-ass work its way through all those gears and come out the other side, but everything that was inside of it doesn't quite make it. Yeah, I think it was a news article we had that they called it. It was a guy that fell in one, and they never used it again. But it's a term that I've never forgot. And when I think it was the sheriff was reporting on it, they called the condition of the guy total morselification. I thought that was the most awesome.
Beautiful description.
I know. It's like one of the titles of one of the bands you listen to, Metal.
Yeah, it sounds like a Carcass song title.
Yeah, total morselification. Let's see here. We've got a couple more here. We got one here from you. Dylan Tate gets charge upgrade. This was an update to another story of the murder molestation out of Indiana.
Yeah, it was an update, and the update was that they added charges. Him and friend, the baby's mama, the baby being Harlan Haynes, and he wasn't a baby; he was 18-month-old, so toddler. They had been charged originally with original charges. They were fairly innocuous charges. It was like neglect or something like that. What had happened is that this Dylan Tate character had showed up with Harlan at a hospital and said that, well, the kid's in really bad shape now because I was on the way to the hospital with him for some unspecified reason, and I got into a car wreck. And so I was holding him on my lap, again, for some unspecified reason, and he was injured in the wreck. So, and it turned out that the kid was in respiratory arrest when they got to the hospital, and he really quickly went into cardiac arrest, which, you know, typically when an adult goes into cardiac arrest, it's because they're going into cardiac arrest because there's something wrong with their heart or their circulatory system. With kids, a lot of times when they go into cardiac arrest, it's because other things are wrong with them. And the other thing that was wrong with Harlan was a long list of injuries that I didn't list in the article. But just for the record, they were pulmonary contusions, extensive bruising along the entire body, anoxic brain injury, intracranial hemorrhaging, multiple soft tissue injuries to the head and the face, sublegal hematoma, possible bite marks on the left arm and left leg, and you always know you're dealing with a freak when there's bite marks. Rectal bleeding with a possible tear, bruising on scrotum and genitals, more freakery, bruising on both feet, abdominal bruising, punctate lesions on torso, upper abdomen, and mid-upper back, and bruising around his mouth and ears. So this kid was absolutely beat to shit, tortured, and sexually molested, obviously. And the hospital said real quickly, well, that didn't come from a car wreck. So they had called the police, and like I said, Jennifer Harris and this other fella had been locked up just on fairly minor charges. And it turns out, as always, DPS had been involved with this particular dysfunctional pseudo family in the past. In December 2017, Harlan was taken to the hospital with 2 black eyes and a fractured leg, and Mama's story was that a Christmas tree fell on him. And so the State Department of Child Services had looked into it, and a few weeks later had just closed their investigation, say they didn't have any findings of abuse or neglect. So another kid dead, and that was the update, was that they had gone ahead and given him murder charges and molestation charges just based on the nature of the injuries to the kid. It's pretty obvious that that something like that had gone on. So looks like a really nice guy. Looks about like what you'd expect. My own worst enemy. If you can't read the tattoo on his chest there in the mugshot, that's what it says. My own worst enemy. And
so he's a big fan of the band Lit.
Truer words never spoken.
Well, we had Muriel on there for a second, and but now she's gone. So, but she was unmuted, so I don't know what happened there. But anyway, and then let's see here. We did have a story. I didn't write it, and you didn't write it, but I did think it was funny. It was this was over in England somewhere, but a woman was suing a bed supplier after being catapulted from bed during sex, leaving her paralyzed. And I did read it because I thought that was funny. But she's actually suing a super king size bed supplier for $1.3 million because she was changing positions during sex with her husband, and she somehow was launched off the bed and landed on her neck and was paralyzed. I think that was it for the story, but still, I thought that was kind of funny. Not the paralyzed part, but
The circumstances.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can mismanufacture a bed that catapults people out of it.
It sounds like a trap. I mean, it doesn't even sound like a bed.
The deathbed, the bed that paralyzes you mid-sex.
I thought you was about to bring up that obscure movie, and I was about to go, "Oh wow, somebody else is actually."
That was a slight reference to that obscure movie, which is on Amazon right now. If anyone has Prime.
Have you watched it?
Yeah, it sure
it's
is Deathbed, the bed that eats.
Yeah, it's very artsy, but yeah, it is actually what the title says it is.
But I think that I read either the story that was attached to it, or the that story about it on another website. What she said the manufacturing problem was is that it lacked two slats at the bottom.
Oh, and I see, and so she kind of rolled off because it broke, or not broke, but the balance of it made it tilt, and so she goes rolling off the back. She's not a small woman, so she just came off.
I had noticed the comments about that.
Oh, I didn't see it. I was just looking at her picture and just kind of assuming, but. Yeah, okay, I could see that. Yeah, I damn, she might actually have a case then, right? I mean, if they didn't assemble the bed correctly.
If it's a manufacturing problem, she does.
Yeah, I'll be damned. That would be crazy if she actually wins that money, even though that wouldn't, I don't know. If I was paralyzed and had 1.3 million, I could probably still make a life.
Says lawyers for the bed company argue the bed was properly assembled when it was delivered, and even if the 2 feet had been missing, it would still not have caused her to fall off the way she did. They're sounds like they're going to fight it, which a lot of times they don't. A lot of times companies just go ahead and settle because it's cheaper to settle than it is to pay a bunch of lawyers to. Even if you win, you come out cheaper just giving someone money. So yeah, it's be interesting to see how it goes. 1.3
It's a pretty
million,
absurd story, so I can see them fighting it because of publicity.
Let's see here. You also had another update on the Paris torture case out of California.
Yeah, and that one was a procedural update, but it was kind of interesting anyhow, just because it brings up a few things about California state law. So the Paris torture case, this came to light earlier in the year. These two bozos that you're maybe looking at on the podcast now, the Captain Kangaroo looking bastard and the crazy looking woman, they had apparently for years and years had their kids on lockdown. They had 13 kids when they got caught, and they ranged in age from I think 3 to 29, no 2 to 29. And they had been in California for a number of years before that. Well, since 2010. Before that, they were in Texas, and they in suburban California, in the middle of this suburb, they had these 13 kids on lockdown in this house. They were homeschooling them. They had a little homeschool going, and they apparently were not feeding them, malnourishing them, beating them, like systematic beatings for misbehavior, keeping some of the kids chained up to the bed. And what happened was one of the kids escaped and got out, and apparently had a cell phone that had been disconnected. But even if they're disconnected, they'll still dial 911. So they called the police, and the police came to the house, and they went in and found all these kids malnourished, some of them to the point that they were developmentally disabled. If you don't feed kids properly when they're growing up, they don't grow up right. And that's not to be funny. That's just the way it is. It's just a simple fact of how kids develop when they're young. They've got to have the right amount of protein. They've got to have the right amount of the right foods. And the kids were severely undernourished, undersized, some of them as much as 40 pounds. And so it came out in the investigation, some of the physical and emotional abuse that these kids had suffered. And they are both in jail under $12 million, or with the bail set at $12 million. And what the update was her lawyer had argued that she had histrionic personality disorder, and that the, quote, actions that underlie the charges were motivated or caused by the mental health disorder. And her lawyer wanted her diverted into a special mental health court. Apparently in California, there's a state law that allows mentally ill defendants in some criminal cases to enter this diversionary mental health treatment. And if they successfully complete it, sometimes it results in the original charges being dismissed. Not everyone's available. It depends on the specific mental health diagnosis, and it depends on the charges. But apparently, torture, false imprisonment, and child abuse don't disqualify you from that program, because that's what she was charged with, and she was eligible for it, or at least her lawyer felt that she was. So she made this motion, and the judge didn't buy the fact that she wasn't a risk to public safety and should be eligible for this program. And so she's still facing all the 40 felony counts that she's got on her, 12 each torture and false imprisonment, 8 child abuse charges, 7 charges of cruelty to a dependent adult. Because after a certain point, it's not child abuse, it's dependent adult abuse. And 1 assault charge, which that's kind of an oddball, but don't know where that came from. It seems like there'd be a bunch of assault charges. But that was the update. And at the time, this was a huge story out in this town, Paris, California. It was I guess not that big a town, and it was a 7-day wonder there that this had been going on, and rightfully so, because it's in the middle of suburbia. Who would think that something like this was going on right under everyone's nose? So anyhow,
Yeah.
She said I'm crazy. She has histrionic personality disorder. Which, if you read up on histrionic personality disorder, it's basically I'm a prima donna bitch. Is how that reads in the DSM-4. That's me summarizing, but anyhow, we'll see if the
I
insanity
actually
defense
thought
works in court.
that there was. Oh, sorry. I thought there was a push to reclassify it as not actually being a disorder and more of an exaggeration of normal in people.
Could well be. I know from the most recent version, they changed a good bit of stuff, some of which was more controversial than others, but.
Well,
she definitely didn't get any slack from the judge on account of it.
we've got like 4 more stories. We're already past 12 o'clock, and I know I spent a good chunk of the beginning talking about some of the stuff with the site. You want to just save these for next week?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, they're good stories. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, we're still kicking tires on this front page. That's why it's not, coming in as quickly or as much as we want. A lot of it is I'm doing a lot of technical work in the background while I'm testing some certain things, and we got some moderators that we're pulling in that I was supposed to meet with, and the times didn't work out, so that they can help us promote articles themselves. So it's not always just me or Metal doing it. On our own, so we can have some people helping out. But there's some rules and guidelines that need to go over so they know how to do it. So, but we'll get there. And especially with the whole podcast going to be changing. If it's not done by next Saturday, it will definitely be done the last week of October, because I'm on staycation, so I'll have a lot more free time to get some of this stuff done. But
you've made a lot of changes. It looks good. I think it's definitely pushing a lot more content to the front page, which is good for everyone.
I've ran into very few hurdles. Most of it, unfortunately, just involved buying stuff. That's the one thing that I'm not liking too much with Zen4 forums. I love the forums. I love the software. The creators behind it have good heads on their shoulders. They're going in the right direction, yada, yada, yada. But what used to be free plugins, now people who create these plugins are charging for them, and I have no problem with them doing that. If they make something worth paying for, then by God, fucking pay for it, right? But I'm just not used to it. So you can put free ones on there, but they don't work nearly as good as some of the people that are actually charging for their stuff. So that's the only thing I've had to get used to, especially when you're using WordPress plugins coming from that, and they're all free. So, but
no doubt,
once it's all done, it'll all be done, and I think it's all for the best. So anyway, I'm going to end this so we don't go too far over. But if you two would just hold on 1 second and don't get off the line quite yet. Oh, you know what I did too, as usual. I left my I left my YouTube page open, so I can't stop the recording. So hold on one second here. We're going to stop this. Hey, everybody, thanks for coming back in. Thanks, Alf, especially you, Edwina, and Muriel. Even though I've seen you come in a couple times, thanks for trying. We'll see if we can figure out what that problem was. But everyone else, thanks again, and we will see you guys next week.
Y'all take care.